Alright, let's review for our test, our Unit 4, Test 2. And so this test is all about inequalities. So let's look at number 1. It says the model below represents the inequality 3x plus 1 is greater than 10. Which value of x makes this inequality true? So first let's highlight our inequality and then the word true, because we know that it doesn't want a not true, it wants a true statement. And so the very first thing I have to do is I want to use all of these answer choices. So I'm going to label A, B, C, and D so that I can show my work for each one of these. So let's first start with letter A. Letter A gives me the answer choice of 1, and so the first thing I want to do is write my inequality. So 3x plus 1 is greater than 10. Instead of this x, I'm going to place a 1. So 3 times 1 plus 1 is greater than 10. 3 times 1 I know is 3, and I bring everything else down. 3 plus 1 is 4, and I bring everything else down. So let's now read our inequality that we have here. It says 4 is greater than 10. Well, 4 is actually less than 10, so I know that that's a false statement, so I can cross off letter A. Let's do the same thing for letter B. So let's start with our inequality. 3x plus 1 is greater than 10. So instead of placing that x, I'm going to put that 2. So I have 3 times 2 plus 1 is greater than 10. 3 times 2 is 6, and I bring everything else down. 6 plus 1 is 7, and I bring everything else down. So let's read what we have. We have 7 is greater than 10. Well, again, that's a false statement because 7 is actually less than 10. So let's do the same thing for letter C. So I start with my equation. 3x plus 1 is greater than 10. Instead of x, I'm going to place that 3. So 3 times 3 plus 1 is greater than 10. 3 times 3 is 9, and I bring everything else down. 9 plus 1 is 10, and I bring everything else down. So let's read what we have. This says 10 is greater than 10. That's also not true. That's a false statement because 10 is equal to 10. So let's do our very last one. And so I have to start with my inequality. 3x plus 1 is greater than 10. And I plug in that 4 into my x. So 3 times 4 plus 1 is greater than 10. So 3 times 4 gives me 12, and I bring everything else down. 12 plus 1 is 13, and I bring everything else down. So let's read our statement. Our statement says 13 is greater than 10. Well, I know that's a true statement because 13 is bigger than 10. If you look at number 2 on your review paper, it's really similar to this one. So that is a you do. That's a practice problem. Let's look at number 3. It says Molly has babysat 15 hours this week. She wants no more than 20 hours. Represent on the number line how many more hours Molly needs to babysit. So let's take our highlighter because all word problems, we want to mark our problems. So she's already babysat 15 hours, and she wants to work no more than 20 hours. Alright, so she's worked 15. Okay, but she doesn't want to work more than 20 hours. So the max she wants to work is 20, and I need to find the difference between these two numbers. So 20 minus 15 will give me 5. So what I know is that I need to mark 5 on my number line. But what I need to figure out is what inequality, so I know if it's a shaded in circle or an open circle, and if it shades to the left or to the right. Well, no more than means it's the maximum amount is 20, so I need a less than or equal to symbol. Well, a less than or equal to symbol tells me that I need to shade this in because anytime I have a line underneath that inequality, got to shade that circle in. And then again, if I were to make an arrow out of this, just like we showed you in class, then that tells me I need to shade my line to the left. So number 4 is just like this one. It's a practice problem. So let's go to number 5. Number 5 says which inequality have x is greater than 4 as a solution. So what I have to do is I have to solve each one of these. So my first inequality says negative 6x is greater than negative 24. Well, I know that that's a multiplication problem, and the opposite of multiplication will be to divide. So I draw a line through my inequality sign, and I divide by negative 6 on both sides. These cancel, so I'm left with x is greater than negative 24 divided by negative 6, which gives me 4. And then I have to see if that's going to be positive or negative. So I use my triangle, and I'm dividing a negative by a negative, so what's left is a positive. So I know that this is positive. So let's look and see if that's the same. It looks the same to me. They both say x is greater than 4. And so I know that inequality 1 is a true statement. And so what I can do is go to my answer choices and see which ones I can eliminate. Well, I can eliminate letter C because 1 is true and letter C does not have a 1 in there. So let's go back and look at our next inequality. Our next inequality says x minus 7 is less than 14. So I draw a line through my inequality sign and I do the opposite of minus 7, which is to add 7 to both sides. These cancel, so I'm left with x is less than 14 plus 7, which is 21. So I have to look up here. Does that match? No, that one doesn't match. So I know inequality 2 is not correct. So what I need to do is go to my answer choices and see which ones I can eliminate. Well, the very first one I can eliminate is A, because one of them is already false. I know that it cannot be all of them. And then I could also eliminate D because inequality 2 was not correct, and then letter D has inequality 2 in it. The only one that's left is letter B, so let's put a question mark by it and see if we are correct. Because if we're not, we need to go back and look. So inequality 3 says 8x is less than negative 72. So the first thing I do is draw a line through my inequality sign, and I do the opposite of multiplication, which is to divide. Those cancel, so I'm left with x is less than negative 72 divided by 8 gives me 9, and I need to use that triangle to determine if it's positive or negative. I have a negative divided by a positive, so I know that my answer is negative 9. Well, I'm looking and that doesn't match, so I can cross off inequality number 3. So let's check the last one. The last one says inequality number 4. X minus 1 is greater than 3. Draw a line through your inequality sign and add 1 because that's the opposite of subtracting. These cancel, and I'm left with x is greater than 3 plus 1, which is 4. That one matches, so I know that 1 and 4 are my matches, and so that's letter B. Number 6 is just like this one. It's a practice problem, so let's go to number 7. Number 7, Matthew bought a popcorn for $4. He also bought some movie tickets for himself and some friends for $8 each. Matthew spent no more than $20 on the movie tickets and popcorn. Write an inequality that represents this scenario. So let's first highlight our important information. He bought popcorn for $4. He also bought some movie tickets, and he bought some friends, but we don't know how many friends, but the movie tickets cost $8 each. And then he wants to spend no more than $20. So that's all the important information that we have. And the very first thing I want to do is start with my total. My total is $20. No more than means that the maximum I want to spend is 20. I can spend less than 20, I can spend all 20, but I don't want to spend 21 or more. So I need a less than or equal to sign. I know that I can fill in the rest of this, so I have an x there, which is my variable, and all I have to do is fill in these blanks here. Well, I know that this one is my rate of change, and any time that I have my rate of change, I always look for the words per or each. So I see the word each here, and the number that goes with it is 8, so I put 8 in my rate. So I've already used 8, I've already used 20, the only thing that's left is 4, so I know that that's my additional information. So my inequality reads 8x plus 4 is less than or equal to 20. Number 8 is just like this one, so that's a practice problem, so let's jump to number 9. Number 9 says which number line represents the solution to the inequality 2x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 4. Okay, so the very first thing I need to do is I need to solve this inequality. And so what I want to do is highlight the inequality. And actually before I even solve it, what I can do is just look at this symbol here. This symbol tells me which way my line should be shaded, and so I can already eliminate some answer choices. So if I have an inequality sign that looks like this, remember that I can make an arrow out of it and it tells me to point to the right. So I can already eliminate letter A and letter B because they're pointing the wrong direction. So now let's go back and let's solve it. So I have 2x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 4. Remember that I can solve this a couple of ways, but the most popular way is to draw your flowchart. So let's draw a flowchart. Alright, the first thing that goes in my flowchart is my x, my variable. And then what's happening to that x is I'm multiplying that by 2. X times 2 is just 2x. And then the next thing that happens in my inequality is minus 2. Well, 2x minus 2 is just 2x minus 2, and that's all equal to 4. I do the opposite of minus 2, which is to add 2. 4 plus 2 is 6. And then I do the opposite of times 2, which is to divide by 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I know that it's x is equal to 3, and that's a positive 3. So let's look at our answer choices. So letter C, it looks like it's going in the negative direction. So it's going -1, -2, -3. Well, my answer was not -3, so I know C is not my answer. So let's look. I'm going over 1, 2, 3 places. It's a shaded in circle because there's a line underneath my inequality sign, and it's going to the right. So D is the correct answer. Number 10 is the practice problem, just similar to this one. So let's jump to number 11. Number 11 says the movie theater charges $8 per person plus $4 for popcorn. Chris has $52 to spend. How many friends can he bring? Write an inequality that represents this scenario. So let's highlight the important information. $8 per person plus $4 for popcorn, and he only has $52. If he only has $52, I know that he cannot spend more than that. So let's start with my 52. He can spend less than $52, but he can't spend 53 or more because he only has $52 in his hand. So I know that I need a less than or equal to symbol. And so then all I have to do is fill in these blanks. Remember, I know that it's an x and a plus, and I know I have my rate, which I look for the words per or each. And I know that this is my additional information, anything that I need to also include. So my rate, I look for per or each. I find that right here, and so it's 8. My additional information, it says plus $4, so I know that I add 4. So my inequality says 8x plus 4 is less than or equal to 52. Number 12 is just like this one, so let's jump to number 13. Number 13 says Mr. Johnson asked the students to give one value that makes the inequality p divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7 true. So the table shows the answers of 4 students. Which student gave a value that makes the inequality true? So let's first highlight what we're looking at. And I also want to underline the word true because I know that I want a true statement, not a false statement. And so you want to be really careful that you look for those words like not in there. Alright, so what I want to do is set up my problem like this. I want to separate all of these students. I have John, I have Carlos, I have Mia, and I have Shay. So I want to start with the inequality that they give us. So p divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. Instead of this p, I'm going to put in 16. So I have 16 divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. Well, I know that 16 divided by 4 is 4, and I bring everything else down. 4 minus 3 gives me 1. So I look at my inequality that we have. It says 1 is greater than 7. No, that's not true. John cannot be correct. Let's look at Carlos. So I'm going to first start with my inequality. P divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. And I'm going to place that 32 in place of that P. So I have 32 divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. 32 divided by 4 gives me 8. 8 minus 3 gives me 5. And I need to read this inequality. 5 is greater than 7. No, that's not true because it's less than. So the next thing I have to do is do Mia. So I have P divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. I want to plug in that 40. So I have 40 divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. 40 divided by 4 gives me 10. 10 minus 3 gives me 7. So let's read our inequality. 7 is greater than 7. No, that's not true. They're equal to each other. So let's try the last one, because if the last one's not right, I know that I did something wrong. So I'm going to start with my inequality. P divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. I'm going to plug in 48 this time. So I have 48 divided by 4 minus 3 is greater than 7. 48 divided by 4 gives me 12. and I